acerca del...
Well, thank you for your question. Regarding Minister Kuleba's interventions and what he said on sanctions. Well, he welcomed the new package of sanctions package. He obviously encouraged us, called upon us to maintain and continue pressure, economic pressure on Russia. He also explained to us how the authorities view Russia's use of, in their view, Iranian-manufactured drones. They are being used by the Russians. Some of those have been shot down by the anti-aircraft. Now, on the sanctions specifically, we've only a few days ago approved a new set of sanctions. It's an ongoing process, though, when it comes to sanctions. We're continuing our work. It's work in progress when it comes to sanctions. Now, on work in progress, I can't give you details of what any putative new sanctions might entail, because we're working on these things. However, we're always thinking about different ways, about other ways in which we can make life difficult for Putin in terms of funding his war effort, and we're looking at ways of building materials to that end. There will be sanctions as and when we identify the sort of targets we can aim at. On drones more specifically, well, you know that these processes have to be based on evidence. Evidence exists. It has been provided by the relevant intelligence services, including Ukrainian intelligence services. Other member states of Council have also called for evidence to be got together in a coordinated and comprehensive way. Iran categorically denies, and has to me, the minister, categorically denied to me personally, that there were any drones that had been sent to be used in the war in Ukraine. However, member states have asked us to go forward to collect evidence, all the available evidence, and on that basis work will continue as appropriate. There was nothing specific on the agenda today, so we couldn't take decisions on this. However, the work is ongoing. Ukraine is absolutely convinced that they are under this sort of attack and will continue to provide us with evidence to that end. On the other question you raised, perhaps I could say a little bit more in answer to it. Let me see. For a long time now, I've been saying that in my view, since the Second World War, the EU, the European adventure, was what led us to be able to build what I called, in all modesty, the best combination of political freedom, economic progress, and economic well-being, and social cohesion. These three things together have made Europe a place where citizens have the advantage of living in an organized society built around those three pillars. And these are not three easy things to find across our world. You may have political freedom and economic progress, not social cohesion. There are other countries where they progress economically but they don't have political freedoms. Unfortunately, there are some places in the world where they don't have economic progress or well-being or stability on a political sense or freedom. Now, I'm not saying there aren't other countries like Canada, Australia, I could go on with a long, long list, where we have very similar models and outcomes. But, quite frankly, I believe firmly that these three aspects in combination make Europe what it is, where a lot of people live and where a lot of people would like to be able to live. Now, I may not have always expressed this properly. And what I was trying to say to the students in Bruges in this particular case was that they should not believe that in other parts of the world, the rest of the world, not all over the rest of the world, but in other parts of the world, you can't take this well-being for granted. There are places in the country where they don't have the freedom or the well-being or not enough economic or social cohesion. They had to be aware that they shouldn't believe that this, what we had in Europe, was available everywhere else. And that you have to have this commitment going forward, including to the rest of the world. Now, we can't build walls around Europe and isolate ourselves. We cannot be an island in the world away from what's going on elsewhere. It was a message against Fortress Europe, about let's close ourselves in and keep the others out. I was speaking to young students and asking them to make a commitment, a bit like my generation did, in all modesty, and as I did when I was younger, a commitment to the rest of the world, that we have values to transmit and what they mean, the freedoms, and what we've achieved are there to be shared, because we are in competition with other models, other political models. There is a risk, there is a threat. Europe is under threat, I've said it before. The war in Ukraine, the war against Ukraine, just shows that and what those threats can be. I do not understand the interpretation that has been given to what I said. I certainly do not share the allegation this is somehow imperialist, white supremacist, or retrograde message. Far from it. It was meant as a message of solidarity, speaking to young Europeans, telling them that they have this good fortune. I say this to my grandchildren. They are so lucky to live where they do, in this free, organized world built around economic well-being and social solidarity. But this in turn brings an obligation towards the rest of the world. As Europeans, we have to step up to the plate and commit more. That is the guarantee for the survival of our own model. I am therefore disappointed to hear some of the interpretations that have been bandied around. I reject them totally. I think everything I've done in my life completely goes against being called a neocon or anything of that ilk.